Yo, what up, guys? What up? What up? It's that time of the day, guys. It's Thursday. We do have a live stream Thursdays, and we talk about a few items, guys. There's a few things I'm going to be talking about today, and then for the first hour, there's a few things I'm going to be talking about. The second half of the stream, at 10, we'll start trying to solve some of your questions. Right? If you have any questions, any issues, we'll review it and we'll talk about it then. So give me a few moments, guys, real quick, um, to make some quick changes on my end. Let's see. Um, so today we're gonna be talking about SQL, uh, Microsoft, and Chat GPT, right? Because they're investing big in that, guys. So we're gonna be talking about that as well, and solving problems. So that's what we're gonna be doing here. All right. So let me go ahead and, dude, why am my screen? There it goes. I don't know why, man. I had some issues right now. All right, guys, give me a few moments, real quick. So one of the issues I've been having, I need to figure out how to fix this, man. So whenever I go live, um, I'm using Streamlabs to go live, and my description and my title doesn't change. So I gotta log in to YouTube, change it manually. Um, Damn it! What the hell? All right, cool. So I think I got everything. All right, guys. So again, guys, I'm excited, man. I'm excited to bring back the live streams. Again, I need to get things a bit more organized when it comes to thumbnail and everything. But ultimately, this is going to be episode 2. Um, New year, second stream of the year. There are going to be more and more streams to come. So there's a few things that I'm going to be doing that I'm working on. I'm kind of mentioning it a little bit on the previous stream, which would have been last week. I'm working on a website, and you know what? I got a. Let me see if I can find it real quick. So I got a logo done for the website that I'm going to be building. The website is called Coding with Lou. Oh, damn it. I need to switch keyboards now. So I kind of mentioned it the other day that let's see. All right, cool. I'm in. So I'm working on a website that's going to be related to a lot of the coding stuff, right, that we're doing. As we solve certain problems, do different things of that nature. It's going to be related to that. And the domain that I got for it, it's codingwithlou.com, right? So I got a logo done, and it's pretty cool. I like it. Let me go ahead and save it real quick. Let's see. Let's extract it all here. Cool. So let's switch scenes. Dude, where is it at? Logo. There goes this guy. So let me go ahead and share the logo with y'all guys. Dude, that's fine. So this is pretty much the you know what, the screen being cut off. So this is the logo that I got done, right? So this is gonna be the logo for the website Coding with Lou. Um, it was kind of tough. I feel like, man, trying to figure out something that matched, but I think this is something that works well, right? Um, because I mean, one thing with the curly brackets, I was thinking, well, man, you know what, Python doesn't really use that, right? So, you know, but I think long term though, even though I'm mainly focused on Python on my channel, I do focus on other stuff, right? You know, like AW, like cloud stuff, and I am going to be expanding on some of the topics that we talk about. Like for example, gaming. I know, you know, some of the viewers that I have on Twitch, they have asked me some questions about the gaming piece of it. So I may get into that as well when it comes to, you know, maybe C sharp or C++, and then kind of going through that process, right? Kind of learning myself because I'm not an expert at gaming at all. But as I learn, you know, go through y'all. Hey, what's up, man? What's up? Damn, that's logo is really nice. Yeah, dude, it came out pretty good. So got it done. When did I get it? Not that long ago. Maybe I think it was over the weekend. The I got with the graphic design. So the guy that did this logo for me, he's the one that helped design the Go Share It site. So again, the Go Share It site got redone. It's a whole new design compared to what it used to be. Dude, the previous website looked like crap. You know, this looks way better. He ended up designing this. He didn't develop the site by all means, but he did the design work. And then ultimately from the design work, then, you know, kind of had somebody from my team build it out. But yeah, man, I think I am liking the logo. I think it came out good. Color scheme, I like it as well too. Um, so, and again, it doesn't really relate to like Python specifically, but it's one of those deals where I am going to be expanding in other languages later on, right? Especially if the channel picks up and everything picks up. Part of it will be probably related to gaming, right? You know, getting, you know, familiar with some of these gaming engines, and, you know, again, using C sharp or C++ or even something different, right? Seeing what's new out there that's being created. You know, maybe use JavaScript and create some sort of web game as well, things of that nature, right? But again, there's stuff that's going to come later on. I still want for now, in a way, Python to be the core, and I think Python is going to be the core even long term, but there's other areas that I want to expand on if the channel does very well, right? So that's kind of the plan. That's what I'm going you know, working on. I am going to have a guest next week as well, guys. So the guest is Kevin Miller. So I was actually on his podcast. He had the podcast. You can go check out his channel. Oh, hey, that's me. I'm live. Where is his? There it goes. Conversation. So this is his channel. You can see this is where I did the interview with him. But either way, he's doing some interviews with other people. So he put it on his channel. You can check it out. Um, I'm gonna be interviewing him. So he's gonna kind of discuss a little bit of just kind of his background. And then he's also one of the things I wanted to kind of pinpoint and kind of focus, kind of get his feedback is his input on when it comes to getting hired on, right? Especially now, there's a lot of dev jobs out there. Not just jobs. I guess there's a lot of developers out there, right? So now you got a lot of people out there for a job. So want to get his some feedback from him on his thoughts of how to get your foot in the door, and kind of get yourself in there, right? Like especially when you don't have a degree, it becomes a lot tougher. But either way, guys, I'm gonna be interviewing him next week. He'll be on my live stream next week. The interview will be for the first half, like the first half of the stream, so 1 hour. Then, of course, the second half of the stream, we would be solving some problems, just talking about some topics and so forth. So all of that is coming next week. So ultimately, for this session, guys, one of the things I wanted to talk to y'all about is what. So the first thing we're going to talk about, we're going to be talking about SQL, right? So anytime that you're dealing with an application, oops, let me switch scenes. There it goes. So whenever you're working with any application, man, most developers, you may not be heavy on the database side, because you're using an ORM or something, right, that connects to the database, and it's able to do your reads and your creates and deletes and so forth, right? But there's a lot that goes on the database side. There's certain processes where you add a lot of business logic on the database side instead of on the application layer. Now, when you start doing that, when you start adding a lot of these complexities, most databases have a language that's very proprietary to their engine, right? And that's kind of what I want to talk to y'all today. Like, what is the difference between SQL and a procedural language, right? So SQL is a standard that most databases use, and when I say most, I mean pretty much all databases have that. Think of it as a SQL. To kind of give an example, right? Like SQL is kind of to some degree like an engine, where every car has an engine. Now the engine varies. Some has V6, V12, V8s. Some have, turbo or whatever, right? I mean, the list goes on. But at the end of the day, the core aspect of it's an engine, and that's kind of how I see SQL, right? So you have SQL, and SQL is like it's an engine, but you do have different types of engines, and that's kind of where you start having different databases, right? That's why there's some databases where you do benchmarks on them. This database engine can be more powerful than this other database engine, or maybe it's more reliable, or more things of that nature, right? Nowadays, I think for the most have, especially your popular databases, right, like SQL Server, Oracle, Postgres, MySQL, those, they're pretty. I mean, they're all powerful. Put it that way. I think for the most have, they would be able to handle the majority of workloads that you throw at them, at these engines. It's not like you're going to see a big difference of, oh, I'm running on Oracle and, compared to MySQL, like it just leaves it in the dust. I mean, it's not going to be the case, right? It's kind of like if you have 4 sports cars, even though one can be technically faster than the other one, but it's not like it's beating it by miles. It's beating it by just literally a quarter of a second or something of that sort. But each one of these engines, again, SQL as a whole, you have the SQL engines, and they have their own variation of SQL. And even the majority of the standard SQL syntax applies across the board, right? Like just like the way you query, do a select statement, right? Like select star from table. Well, that kind of is standard through all the engines, whether it be SQL Server, whether it be Postgres, whether it be Oracle, whatever. You do it the same. There's some nuances, for example, where you know for you got to specify the schema or things of that nature, but overall it's pretty much the same. Like one nuance that stands out for me is like you're trying to select the top 10 records. When SQL Server is select top 10, well, in Postgres is select star, like all rows from a table. Then at the bottom of the statement you put limit 10. So again, slightly different, right? Top 10 for SQL Server, limit 10 for Postgres. So you got little nuances like that. But again, kind of going back to the question, what is the difference between SQL and a procedural language? So kind of going back, when you have these different SQL engines, all of these SQL engines, pretty much, they have created their own proprietary language that works for that engine only, right? So like SQL, as in general, like select start from table, that would work on SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, the list goes on and on, right? It'll work on all of these different databases. But when it comes to procedural language, you have nuances, and that does not work for all different databases. That works for that specific database. Hey, what up? We got Python developer in the house. What's up, man? So we're just kind of talking about a few topics right quick. Just got back from Dallas to Chicago. Nice, man. So you came down here to Dallas for a while. Cool. You come down here for business, family, or like anything like that, or just because? I enjoy steak so much. Dude, I don't know which steakhouse you went to, but they have a steakhouse called Papa Bros, and it's in Dallas. I'm trying to think. It may be in Irving, but it's like next to Dallas if it's not. Real good, dude. Real good steakhouse. That's cool, man. It's cool. Um, so something what I was mentioning is New Year's was cousin nice, dude. Nice. Yeah, man. I went for New Year's. I went to the steakhouse. Double Eagle. So it's a Del Frisco's restaurant in downtown. Dude, it's real good. They have some good steak there. So yeah, man. So and pretty much what I'm doing in the live stream, there's a few things I want to talk about for the first hour of the stream from 9 to 10, and then from 10 to 11, we'll start going through like some questions or issues, right, that maybe the viewers have. So if there's anything that we want to test out, you want me to look into, we can start exploring and kind of going through all of that. Um, if ChatGPT was a person, it would be. I don't know about that, dude, but ChatGPT be on point sometimes, So there's sometimes it be hitting good, but other time it's a big miss. It's a big miss for sure. Oh, and I'm going to be talking about that in the live stream. I'm going to be talking about Microsoft big investments into ChatGPT. What does that mean? What I think that's going to happen, and all of that. I love the MySQL to AWS. Yes, man. So I did make a video. I don't know if you saw that or not. It seems like you did see it. And yeah, man. So it kind of shows you I spin up a MySQL database in my DigitalOcean environment. You know, showed the process to connect to it to JDBC, and then ultimately, drop the results to an S3 bucket. I am going to be doing another video. I got a request. Somebody wants me to do a video where we're pulling multiple tables. So I'm going to do a video related to that soon. So a lot of videos coming out, man. I don't know if you noticed, but I've been dropping videos pretty much every day. So that's kind of like the schedule. 9 in the morning, be dropping videos going forward. And yeah, man, I'm gonna be pushing out videos like crazy. Um, I am working on it. I don't know if you noticed. I don't have stuff behind me, right? So even if I move to the side, there's nothing behind me. So ultimately, I got myself a green screen. I'm gonna be putting back here in the back, and I'm not gonna use it necessarily for these kind of streams or whatever. But the green screen, I got it because I'm going to be using it. I'm gonna be doing some tutorial videos. In this case, more like I'm gonna create different plans, but one will be for beginners. Um, then intermediate, then more advanced, and then of course web, and then what was the other one? API, but all related to Python. So those will be more like tutorials type settings. So ultimately, I'm gonna have a green screen to kind of remove the background, just kind of show me only in the stream. But yeah, man, I'm putting been putting a plan together, so you'll be seeing a lot of those. I mean, I guess for y'all it may not make sense, but it'll be more designed for like the newbies for sure that trying to learn something, right? 10 billion, yes, exactly. So I am going to be talking about that in a few minutes. The Microsoft ChatGPT, kind of give you my thoughts in a way what I think that means, and in general, when it comes to Microsoft, when it comes to Google as well, and all of that. But yeah, man. So I was talking about SQL. So let me go ahead and show you. Let me bring it up. And ultimately, what I was talking about was how, like, what's the difference between SQL and a procedural language, and pretty much a procedural language is it's kind of a proprietary language that's designed more for that specific SQL engine, right? That database like MySQL or Oracle and so on. There are some similarities when you look at it, like when you compare, let's say, Oracle compared to Postgres, for an example. You will find some similarities to that. But ultimately, if you were to take a Postgres procedure and try to run it in a, let's say, Oracle environment, database, it's not going to run. You're going to get errors because there are some stuff that's very specific to that engine, right? And if we go down, we'll see the different types of procedural languages that are out there. Just kind of, I'm going to just focus some of the more like popular ones, right? So we have T-SQL, which is a SQL Server engine database. We have PL-SQL, which is Oracle. And then, of course, you have PL-PG-SQL, which is Postgres. And then, yeah, here's MySQL as well. And again, pretty much almost every major database, except SQLite, of course, but every major database out there, they have their own variations, right? Like procedural language that they have. And so even though you may find a lot of similarities, but you'll find a lot that do not, they're not the same. Something to keep in mind, though, like kind of giving an example with Postgres. Postgres does have some additional features. Now, you got to install some packages in order for this to work. But you could have, for an example, if you install these extensions to the in your Postgres engine, you could run inside a procedure, right? Like let's say a Postgres procedure, you could have Python code inside there running that would do what normally whatever Python would do, right? Whether it be maybe manipulating some data or doing things of that nature. So I know other languages. I believe T-SQL has incorporated something like that as well. So all of that's kind of starting to get more, and it makes sense to do that, right? Because especially Python being as popular as it is with like statistics and all that, it makes a lot of sense, man, to try to, in some of these procedures, use something more easier like a Python as an example. Again, it doesn't have to be Python. It could be C sharp, I guess, or whatever other language they allow. But something that from a programmatic standpoint, I feel it's easier. So my feedback though, like I'm pretty familiar with procedural languages. Like the two that I use often is T-SQL and Postgres PLPG SQL. And there's a lot of things in there that I feel, it's kind of like, it's very similar to like the way you're dealing with any programming language, right? You gotta declare your variables. It's what it's called, right? So you kind of you want to create variables. You got to declare your variables. You got to determine the data type, and then you could set values to those variables, and then ultimately you could use this in your process. Because again, procedural language, you got to keep in mind, it's not like it's not using OPP or anything. It's literally a procedure. Like the code starts from top to bottom. So there is no, I want to do something on top. I want to reference in the bottom, then re-reference it on top. Like, you could create functions as well, like in Postgres and SQL and server and, so on. You do have the ability to create function that you could like call that function in your procedure to do whatever it's doing. Maybe a function is to clean up the phone numbers, because phone number could come in different formats. Some people put dashes in it, other people don't. But you could like all standardize it, normalize it to like one standard. So you create a function, so it would just, as they run the process, it'll iterate through the phone numbers and update it to the proper format, right? That's where a function will come in handy. So you could do that. But again, procedural starts from top, go to the bottom. It's not, it's not a sense of, like OPP, where you could like just call different classes, things of that nature. It just doesn't work in that manner. It's very powerful though, man. There's a lot of things you could do with it. Even though I get it, a lot of software developers don't like dealing with SQL. I will still recommend, man, like get familiar with some of these procedural languages, because it depends on what you're doing. But there are some cases where it makes sense to have processes run on the back end to manage some of the heavy lifting on whatever it is that you're doing, right? Compared to doing it on the application layer. It just depends on what you're doing, but that's kind of where a procedure language come in handy. RIP, Stack Overflow, and documentation. Oh man, here's the thing with Stack Overflow, man. I would say I think the reason why Stack Overflow, in my opinion, is still, again, when I say better, when you're able to find stuff in Stack Overflow that you're looking for, the results that you're going to get there is going to be more accurate, in my opinion, compared to ChatGPT. ChatGPT, it can give you the right results, and I think there's a lot of cases where the results you get are going to be accurate. There's other cases going to be wrong. But if you don't know better, right? Again, especially if somebody that's new, they're a newbie, you don't know any better. You may take it as, hey, this is valid. Copy and paste, boom. Especially if you're working at a company already and you're a noob, and you're not, really testing things out properly. Just copy and paste it and think, oh, I'm good to go, dude. There's gonna be all kinds of problems. Put it that way. So, what is data governance? I know. Definition, but practicing in AWS, how to implement. Can you show example of data governance? So I know where I like previous, right? Like, I mean, today I kind of work for myself. I have my own business, but in the past, when I worked for one of my previous employees, or employer, I guess. But the way they had data governance, right? Because that's kind of what you're asking. Ultimately, it was a so we did have a team specifically, right? So there were kind of a like actual people that kind of managed that. Now, from from a technology standpoint, this team did have control and access to, of course, all of the services that manage this data as well. And that's where certain, policies were being implemented on their end. So let's say AWS as an example, right? I'm just kind of picking that right now as an example. But so besides the team of like physical people that were part of that department, I guess, or that role, they had access to AWS, the console, management, and they had access to a lot of the services, right? Your RDS instances, your EC2 instances, and other S3 buckets and things of that nature. And then from there, they were their responsibility. Well, at least what they did, anyways. They created all of the policies. Like they worked with the cloud team to create policies of who can have access to what, to certain, data sets, whether it be like an S3 bucket. They could have access to this bucket, but not this bucket, you know. And then if they wanted access to this bucket, they would have to some kind of approval process, and then they would have to be given access to it. And sometimes it was just temporary access. You get it for a short period of time. It just depends. Um, Other thing would have been, again, same thing with the data, right? Like there was a lot of databases, not just dev, pre-prod, and prod, but also dealing with different type of database for different systems, whether it be internal system or external. I mean, it didn't matter, but still, like they were the one giving the access, or I want to say giving the access. They weren't doing the actual giving access, but they were the one governing who could have access to what data. And if you wanted access, they created certain policies, like processes of fill out the form, tell me why do you need access, what is it going to be used for, and the data that you get, right? Like if let's say if I wanted to access sales data and customer master data, because I'm going to be putting reports together for, let's say, upper management of customer sales, just as an example, but something like that. Well, there were processes in place, like, and I'm talking about more like, because I don't have access, like I did not have, I had access because of my role to certain data, but there's some data that I just never, I had to get approval to get access. That's where, it had to go to that team. That team, gave the okay, you want to call it, right? Like, hey, they the feedback, like the request makes sense to give them data, so they send it to the cloud team. Then the cloud gives me access to that database or that source, whatever that source is. That's how it was at least implemented where I have worked at before. From a I think from a cloud standpoint, I have not dealt with any true process in AWS. They may have some stuff. I'm going to assume AWS, if they don't have nothing per se, because again, everything that's more of it, you got to configure it yourself. There may be some tools, I would assume, in the marketplace for data governance that you could use to kind of control all of that. Like secure and determine who's getting access, and maybe put time limits and see the amount of time they're accessing certain data, or why they're accessing it as much as they are, or whatever, right? Like I'm just looking at it right now, like data governance for AWS. So I do see some marketplace solutions out there. Big ID, this what's the other one? PKware. So hold on. But yeah, I mean, again, I'm kind of just going more on a little bit of experience that I have. That's really not my expertise by all means. But that's kind of it. That is a good topic though, man. To be honest with you, I need to I did mention earlier on my stream, I am bringing on some guests to my live stream, and so hold on, guys. Give me one quick second. Um, so yeah, guys, I mentioned earlier. So I am bringing on a guest next week on my live stream, and Kevin Miller. So he'll be on. He's gonna kind of give you some background of his, um, like some insight of his background, and also he's gonna kind of give some feedback on, like, kind of how to get your foot in the door, right? How to land that dev job. So he's been in the industry for I think about a good 7, 8 years now or so, and he has been at a couple of companies now. So either way, guys, that's gonna be next week. So he's gonna be coming on as a guest. Again, how I mentioned, there are certain topics that I know I'm not an expertise at, and it will be good to bring somebody that is has experience in that area. So I think data governance is actually a good topic, man. I'm gonna try to find somebody that I could bring on that has better knowledge for sure than I do, and then yeah, man, he'll be able to kind of provide more insight to data governance. You know, not just from a definition standpoint, but from a functionality with an organization, and you know how does that actually implemented, right? A data governance, from a technology systemic standpoint. So I think that would be something good to bring a guest for sure. Um, the next topic, guys, I want to talk to you about in this case. Let me go ahead and open up the URL. Let me go to the page. So this, I don't. I'm pretty sure y'all have heard about this anyways. How Microsoft is investing big into ChatGPT. So they have already invested what, $1 billion, I believe. If I recall correctly, it was $1 billion that they invested into ChatGPT. Well, now they are investing um, 10 billion dollars more, and I believe it's going to be for 49% ownership of it, which is a lot, dude. Like, pretty much all they need is another, what, 1 or 2 more percent, and they pretty much control it, man. Put it that way. You know, 41% tells me that the the owners of ChatGPT, which is OpenAI. Dude, why did it not find my page? What am I missing? Let's see. What did I spell something wrong? Um, Oops, I did. Damn it. Okay, I see it. There it goes. So when I talk about so Microsoft investing big. So why are they investing big into ChatGPT, which again it's OpenAI, it's the parent company, and they have already invested $1 billion back in 2019. So but now they want to invest another 10 million. So that's a total of $11 billion. They're pretty much put it in. So the original investment was back in 2019 for $1 billion, and the old overall equity stake that they're getting out of this is 49%, dude. And the only reason why I'm thinking, okay, 49% is because, A, if they get 50%, they're pretty much 50-50 ownership, which means decisions would have to be shared through Microsoft as well. That get done. If you get 51, you're in control. Whatever you say goes. You're gonna run it the way you want, and that makes sense from an investment standpoint of don't give them full control. I mean, even though they're pretty much right there, but don't give them full control because then they could do whatever they want. Even if the overall, the other investors don't agree with it, it doesn't matter. They're pretty much in charge. They do whatever the hell they want to do. So I see it makes sense on why they're only giving them 49. It seems like the other investors are taking the other 49%, and then of course OpenAI parents only getting 2%. So I found that kind of interesting, right? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, the owners, the parent owner of the company, they're only getting 2%, guys. 2, right? It's not. Let me make it bigger. It's actually kind of small. They're only getting 2%. So that's why I'm thinking, like, dude, why? Like, okay, why so little, right? Like 2%. But some other reports that I kind of read and related to just ChatGPT in general, where AI is going to, let's say in the next 5 to 10 years, ChatGPT specifically is projected to be valued at $1 trillion. Let's say some years from now, whether it be 5, 10 years from now. So when you do the math on it, from a 2% of $1 trillion, like, dude, what is that? Dude, I'm trying to think now mathematically. Is that $20 billion? I guess. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think if I do my math right. 49% Microsoft, 49% ChatGPT, 2% other parents. Oh man, did I have it wrong? Maybe you're right. With other investors taking another 49, and OpenAI, nonprofit parent getting 2%. Okay. Yeah, no, I think no, I think you're right. But dude, that the like from Microsoft standpoint, them getting that much. And here's the thing: when you think about it, it sounds a lot, right? Like they already paid 1 billion. With this agreement here, they are agreeing that 75% of the profits, right, that come in, Microsoft is going to get until they get their first investment of $1 billion. So I'm not sure how much money they're getting. I saw a report, and I don't know how valid this is, but I saw a report last week that mentioned that it's costing about $1 million a day to operate the Chat GPT. Think about it, $1 million, dude. So that's $365 million to operate the software. Now that, to my understanding, does not even include overhead like building, management, costs that gets like owner distributions that get paid off to ownership. It doesn't account for none of that stuff. It literally accounts for operating expense for the software, which would be like web services, which today is being implemented in AWS. So they're using AWS to implement this. But so think about $1 million, dude. I'm going to assume as volume increases, that price is going to go up. It's not going to be $1 million a day. It's probably be more like $2 million a day. So ultimately, these numbers could be even more, right? They're gonna be spending, about 3/4 of $1 billion, pretty much, in just operating the application. Um, but still, though, whatever the profits that do come in, Microsoft is gonna get 75% until they get their first $1 billion. Now, the thing about it, though, well, I'm not sure how much their profit, based on what they're expecting. They have here last month a recent pitch said organization expects 200 million in revenue next year, and then 1 billion. So in 2023, they're expecting 200 million in revenue. Which again, though, I look at that as if it's true that it's costing $1 million a day supposedly to operate, for web services. Dude, that doesn't even count the revenue that they're expecting to get. They're still going to be in the hole, right? They're going to be negative. Which again, most startups, especially as they scale big time, you're gonna be in the red for the first couple of years. It is the reality, right? So this makes sense, even though they're getting 200 million. But again, if they're spending $1 million a day, they're gonna be negative 165 million, and then of course 1 billion by 2024, and that's where I could see them being positive. If that's the case, if they turn positive in 2024, that means at that moment, that's when Microsoft will start couping their investment, their first $1 billion investment. So even out of the 1 billion, let's say a quarter million in profits, they will take 75% of that until they get their overall $1 billion investment, which probably, I don't know, maybe it happens in 2025 or so. But that's a lot, dude. 75% of profits, like, I mean, they got cash. I mean, if they're getting $10 billion from Microsoft, that should, even at $1 billion a day to operate, but they still got marketing and everything else. Still though, I mean, they got a lot of cash, and to hold them out for sure. They're using AWS. I wondered, so yes, that's another thing. So they are using AWS today with this investment that they have. To me, I haven't heard nothing. Like, I have not heard anything to confirm this. But to me, this is what makes sense. It makes sense from Microsoft point of view. Like, you know what? We're gonna give you $10 billion because we want more. We want 49%, right? They're gonna get their $1 billion back by getting 75% of the profits of, once they start being cash flow, once they start being positive, which will probably most likely be 2024, will be my guess, potentially. But on top of that, their plan is probably like, hey, we also want to move this over from AWS to our Azure platform, because now they're going to get a lot of revenue off of that. Instead of paying AWS $1 million a day, pay us $1 million a day. And now they're going to make all kinds of profit off of that. Because here's the thing, web services, the profit margins are high. Dude, they are very high. It's not like other industries where the profit margin is very thin. You're only getting a 5-10% margin or anything like that. Dude, the margins are extremely high in web, like web services. It's one of the reasons why AWS, like Amazon, has been able to sustain themselves and scale, because even though Amazon may not be doing well because they're selling they're shipping at free shipping and all that, and you know um the margins are very slim on some of the items they sell, but AWS web services keeps them afloat, keeps them positive, because again, it's just so much. The profits are so high. I could see where Microsoft would be, hey, we're gonna take we want ChatGPT to run on Azure, so now we're gonna make money off of there. Then on top of that, if the platform explodes, right, you're gonna need more web services. It probably get to the point where they're spending $1 billion a year in the future or more. So that means now Microsoft said, all right, we have equity stake in the company. We're getting about $1 billion over here in web services a year. And because they own so much of it, they're going to be using it in a lot of their tools. I don't know if it talks about it here, but I was reading in a article. Maybe I don't think it was this one. I think it was a different one. Let's see. Wonder if Microsoft intends to change. Yeah, no, again, I really think they are, man. Can we do simple how to load data to AWS Aurora? And what kind of data can be loaded? Sure, man, sure. So we're about to be done with just kind of these topics in a few minutes, and then probably around 10, yeah, we'll switch over and try to look into some of these, kind of play around with that for sure. And let's see. So OpenAI will then talk to sell existing shares at roughly 29 billion, in a tender offer that would attract investments of at least 300 million. So they're bringing in money, and I mean they kind of need it, man. If they're truly spending about $1 million a day, I'm not sure how their marketing is. And the reason I say that, I think marketing have been kind of self promoted, like people word of mouth. That's the word I was thinking of. Been more of word of mouth. People know of it because other people are talking about it. Like I'm talking about it, other people talking about it. So like I have not seen a lot of ads or anything of that sense, or even commercials related to OpenAI, and probably because it's not really needed right now. It's all through word of mouth, and everybody knows about it. So that's the other thing. Again, I was trying to see if it was on here, but it wasn't here. I was reading this other article. What Microsoft already intends to do is they're going to be using ChatGPT for Bing on the back end. So like today, they like the way you search for Google or whatever, start any search engine, where they're going to be using ChatGPT, and then they're going to have a section on their page that's literally they're going to give you the results back. So again, I'm not sure how that's going to look because traditionally today, if we were to go to Bing, it's like any other traditional, search engine. I don't know. Let's say, you know, Python, um, load data to Excel, right? Just something, that's very traditional, just like the way Chrome is and other browsers. You get a list of different ones, you got to go to it. But based on what I was reading, is they're going to be using ChatGPT in Bing, and I'm assuming, this is me making assumptions, I'm assuming there's going to be a section still like this where you got links you can go to, but there's going to be a section on their page. I don't know if it'll be on the right side or where, or maybe just here, right in the front. But there'll be a section right like in the main page section, what I was reading, that should give you back kind of the same kind of results if you were to use ChatGPT, right? Just like the way ChatGPT kind of gives you an example and a description and does all that kind of stuff. It'll have like a section here, and you just kind of get all the details. So now I guess as a user, you'll kind of be left to determine, do I just use that on what it's giving me, or do I want to maybe go to another page? But so that's number one. The other thing that I read that they're going to be using it for is going to be for Outlook. Outlook and Word, I believe, are the two other applications. So Outlook and Word are going to have ChatGPT incorporated into those applications to be able to utilize it as well. And I think, some of the stuff they were talking about could be, as you're sending email messages, you could run it through ChatGPT and it could enhance it for you, I guess, as well. Make it better, right? Give you a better version of it. Things of that nature. And other stuff. I'm not sure, like, all the details, but it sounds like, for sure, what I was reading is a Bing, Outlook, and Word applications that ChatGPT, Microsoft is going to incorporate that into that. Another thing that I heard too is GitHub. So Microsoft owns GitHub, and then you have what am I thinking of? Copilot. That's what I was thinking of. So you already have Copilot. So the way this kind of works, this is really taking a repository of what's already in GitHub to kind of try to give you, like, a better. Oh, there it goes. See, GitHub Copilot uses the OpenAI to suggest code and so on. Well, I guess it already is using it into it. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Has that always been using it or no? I don't. At least I wasn't aware that it was always using it. Yeah, that's interesting. I need to read into that to see when they has it always been that way or not. I don't think it has though, man. I could be wrong. I don't think it has. But again, Microsoft owns all of this, all of that for sure. I mean, again, it seems. Well, it doesn't say. Let me rephrase it. It's using OpenAI codex, but it's not using ChatGPT. So I think That was the piece that I read, that they're gonna incorporate ChatGPT into it as well, for answering certain questions and things of that nature as well. So again, it's gonna be interesting, man, because Google's majority, I believe, I want to say it's about 70%, somewhere around there. It's a good amount of Google's revenue comes to search. They get revenue from other sources as well, but I believe it's through search. Um, and if this is affects Google, dude, that's a big chunk. Like, you want to talk about value being value going down. It's gonna be like Facebook's, value. Their market share value went down a lot, and I'm just not sure. The only thing that I'm kind of like, all right, is this gonna work or not? Is gonna be um, Bing. Most people that I know do not use Bing. Maybe people use Bing now because, hey, they know that he's using ChatGPT and all that. Maybe, right? I'm not sure. The only the reason why I say that is because you could just go to ChatGPT. ChatGPT, where there it goes. You could just go straight to the site and just do your own searches through here instead of having to go through Bing. I think what's going to push people though eventually to maybe force them to use Bing and stuff. This, I believe, it's already starting to be limited. Um, like the amount of requests you can make on a per hour base or etc. Like things like that. So because it is going to be limited, you're not going to be able to have unlimited searches that you could do. You're going to have to especially if you're using it a lot, right? Like you're like searching and doing all kinds of stuff, and maybe you're doing like 50 plus requests in an hour. But if it's limited to only like maybe 10, 20 an hour, then you're gonna have to go somewhere else or pay, because I believe they're gonna be charging for it as well. What I heard eventually. So it's interesting, man. We'll see how that turns out. What about people not speaking English? You talking about for ChatGPT? That's kind of interesting, man. I don't know how it's. I mean, now that you mentioned that, um, let's do English to Spanish. Let me type something like, I don't know, Python, um, export data to CSV. Or let me, dude, this is very, I don't know. Let me just copy this in Spanish. I'm just kind of curious now if it would. Oops, my session. What the hell? It's not logging in. Dude, I wonder if they're having issues. It won't even refresh. Let me make sure it's not me. No, it's not me. It's this page. Dude, it's going slow, man. It does not go this slow. They must be getting hit right now. There must be a lot of activity going on. Cause it's going really slow. And again, this kind of goes back to web services, man. As you cannot have a platform be that slow, like long term. In order to fix that issue, oh, it's giving you back, dude. It was able to determine. Look at the results, man. It's coming back in Spanish. It know that it's Python. It's pretty much doing exactly. I mean, the results are valid, but it's giving me all the descriptions back in Spanish. And that's pretty cool because have not tested this out in any other language besides English, and now I see that it actually worked. Like, let me just copy a piece of this. I'm just kind of curious on what it translates to. Yep. Hey, there you go, man. I'm not. I am kind of curious now. What languages do they have? Like again, Spanish, English are kind of. I know they're at least here in the U.S. they're kind of big. But I wonder what other languages they have in the list that it could identify properly. Hey, that's actually pretty cool. But again, guys, my whole thing with Microsoft, like I think what they're doing, like Microsoft has in the past had a bad rap. Uh, we want to enclose everything. Nothing's open source. Nothing's gonna work in no other platforms. I think the last 10 years, dude, they've been doing a lot of good things. They purchased GitHub. Of course, with gaming with Xbox. Um, I think when it comes to some of their applications that they have created, like a SQL Server, dude, a SQL Server database can now be installed on a Linux application. You can install it on Linux. That wasn't always the case. Back in the day, you had to install it on a Windows server. That's not the case no more. You can install it on a Linux now. Visual Studio, not Studio Code, Visual Studio, that you can run on a Mac, for example. I don't know you can run on Linux, but you can run on a Mac for sure. Like there's a lot of things, dude, they have been doing throughout the years that have been a little bit more friendlier to people that are fans of like open source and like the gaming community and just other communities, right? Um, you know, so I think they've been doing a lot of good things, dude. They're going down the right path, on the right track. So I think this is the win for Microsoft, man. I gotta say, I think this is a big win for Microsoft for doing that. I'm not sure what the hell Google's doing. I feel like I wouldn't be surprised, but I have not heard of anything yet. If Google in the next couple of months, like, boom, drops their version of ChatGPT, and let's just say works actually better. Because if it does, that's what they need, guys. Without that, I think you're gonna start seeing the decline of Google for sure from this, going forward. So it's gonna be interesting to see. Let's see. I did not expect Spanish. Hopefully, actually, it's actual legit advice. Yeah, I mean, so far it's again, dude. I don't know how to read Spanish, so but I did take this and I copied it into Google to translate, and so far it seems valid, right? It does seem to be valid. But this is cool, guys. I mean, this is actually pretty cool that it does in understand other languages. Arabic is usually very difficult to read, and that's where it's So let's kind of go back to what I had here, right? And let's change it to Arab. All right, so you're right. It is. I don't know if this is valid though. I cannot again. I mean, yeah. I don't know, man. Is this valid? It doesn't seem valid to me, but I could be wrong. Oh, this is not. Duh. No wonder this is not English. Okay, there it goes. So maybe this is valid here, I guess. Dude, I can't even copy it. So let's do a new chat. It seems to have understood it anyways. Again, whether it's valid or not, I see pandas, CSV, so it seems to be, going down the right path. Say OpenAI says ChatGPT will be paid service. Do you recommend to pay? No, because I think what's going to happen is I do think ChatGPT is going to be a paid service, but I think what most likely may happen is you're going to have somebody like Microsoft say, "Hey, we're going to incorporate this to our browser and come use it for free in our browser," right? Just like the way you could do today, go to Bing.com and use it for free. And I think that's how Microsoft is going to drive traffic to go to the browser. Now, if you choose not to use Bing, then yeah, you would have to, like for this version that I have here, this is where I could see them having a basic tier version where maybe you only could do like 2, 3 requests an hour or something basic, and then of course you want more requests than that, you got to pay whatever, I don't know, whatever they charge. I think I'm assuming their plan though will be more. Microsoft will have it to utilize for free, like for Bing, pretty much, and then the paid version for OpenAI for ChatGPT would be like APIs and stuff like that. So what you're gonna end up having is kind of like what Google does today. If you want to tap into Google's APIs for, let's say Google Maps, right, to get like live status updates of how, like, cause I believe Uber does this today, like Uber Eats and or Uber in general, like how you see the little map, the car, how where it's driving, like the GPS aspects of it. Well, they're buying that data. At least they were in the past. I don't know if they still are today. They were buying that data from Google because Google has all of that information, like the maps, and they're using their API. But there's a price tag to it, right? You got to pay for it. It's not cheap. Now Google manages all of that, so they keep up with as new roads are being created and all that kind of stuff, right? But nevertheless, Uber pays for that, and they're able to access that data to the API. That's where I could see ChatGPT, where you would have an API, and then as people build applications, that needed for different processes or whatever, instead of reinventing the wheel and creating a whole new, AI, functionality, you would just pay OpenAI for their API for ChatGPT, and then you'll be able to get that same functionality, but incorporate it into your application to do whatever it is that you're trying to do. That's kind of where I think that's going to happen from a business standpoint with them. Um, it's almost, yeah, guys. So it's already past 10. So let's go ahead. We're gonna switch and let's kind of play around with that piece. Low, simple CSV sample CSV. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me go ahead and log into everything real quick. And and you want to do what? Aurora, right? Yeah. So let's see. All right, cool. So let's go to which would be under RDS. Do I have any database running? I do not. Man, I'm wondering if it's me, but I swear it seems like everything going slow today, man. So here's the thing to keep in mind with Amazon Aurora, right? So what it really is, it's really a Postgres database. Well, let me rephrase it. Aurora, you could pick the database. You could either pick the engine to be Postgres or MySQL, I believe. So I believe you have the option to pick one or the other. But think of it, what they did, they kind of added their own touches to it. It's like taking an engine and then you kind of add your own components on top of that to make it faster. Like you slap a twin turbo engine to it, twin turbo to it, and maybe open up the exhaust, and just adds other features that makes it faster. That's kind of what Aurora is at the end of the day. So let's go ahead and pick on Aurora. And yep, there it goes. See, so up to 5 times the throughput of MySQL and 3 times of Postgres. So, but you get to pick. See, Aurora is a MySQL and Postgres compatible enterprise database. Because you get to pick which one you want to use, but it is a faster version of it. And then of course it just kind of tells you like the sizes. And again, this is all enterprise level, dude. This is very high. I actually use Amazon Aurora for the app, my Go Share It app here. This application, the database aspect of it, is running Aurora in the backend. So let's go ahead and let's create. So see here, right here, where it tells. Let me make sure. Let's see. I need to zoom in. Zoom in a little bit. Make it a little bit bigger. So see where it tells you which which engine pretty much, right? In my case, I guess we could do MySQL if you want to do MySQL. You want to do MySQL, Postgres? We'll stick with MySQL because I think that's what you asked for last time, MySQL. So we will stick with that. That's not a problem. So let's stick with MySQL. Let's see. Engine information. So show versions that support the global database, blah blah blah. Show versions that support serverless version 2, offering instance. So we'll stick with the defaults for now, just the basic, right? Like I have not tried serverless yet. I know in not AWS in Azure SQL serverless, there's some features that do not work in serverless compared to the normal SQL server database. So we'll just stick with the basics for now. And let's see what version we have here to use. So this is MySQL 5.7. Let me see which. Oops, did I type it wrong? I did. So what versions? This is 8 point. I'm trying to see what's the more. I'm assuming this is probably the newer one. I don't think it matters. Let's go with a more newer one. I think that should be fine. Let's see. So we're gonna do dev. So the database cluster name, we'll call this MySQL. Just call it MySQL Dev for now. That's fine. Credentials. Let me go ahead and open up something to kind of save this information in here real quick. So we'll do user name as admin. And again, a lot of this I'm gonna shut down once we finish, but it will do password as let me use my password generator real quick. Generate password. There it goes. That's my password. Oops. Master password. Confirm password. Manage master credential in AWS Secret Manager. No, we'll skip that for now. That's fine. So we do have serverless. We're not gonna do that. Memory. We don't need a lot of memory. Well, you know what? That's fine. I think it's actually cheaper for that version. Pick pick the cheapest that we could get. We don't need nothing intense. Let's see. So we have a large. So 16 gigs, 16 gigs. Let me go let me see CPU. We don't need a lot of RAM. There it goes. We probably do this one. T3 medium. Yeah, that's fine. Something cheap. Okay, so this piece here, see where it says multi-AZ deployment? What this does here is it will create two databases for you. And the purpose behind this is, think of it, now it costs more money, keep in mind. So if you pick that option, think of it as you're kind of paying double. So let's just say for this instance, the price tag is $200 a month, right? Just for one database. But if you click on the create the replica read node, your price is going to be close to $400, like double. And the reason why it's double, because it's literally starting two database instances. One of them is a read and write. The other one is strictly for reading only. And the purpose behind that is, as you make updates to your let's say database one, those updates ultimately get applied to the read as well. But the read database is strictly for the purpose of just reading. Like you won't never update nothing in the database. It helps from a performance standpoint when you're either there's a lot of heavy loading, a lot of activity going on, but at the same time you're gonna be reporting or pulling data. You load in one database and then you could query from the other database. So that's kind of what that's for. That's what I have on my environment. For my application here, this Go Share It application. That's what I'm using. But we don't need it for the purpose of what we're doing here. Just want to explain what that is. And there is some benefits to have it, because if your database goes down, people can still query from the read database at least until you fix the problem and then bring everything back. So let's see, what does this says? So now we're going to look at connectivity. It says do not connect to an EC2 compute instance. Then of course you can allow to connect to EC2. Let's see. Choose whether to set up a connection to a compute instance resource for the database. Setting up a connection will automatically change connectivity settings so that the compute resource cannot connect to this database. So in this case, it's if you're going to have a specific EC2 instance connected to the database, then that's kind of where I believe you could specify it. In our case, I'm going to say no. Even though it's no, it says do not set up connected to a computer resource database. You can manually set exactly. So by setting no, you could always open up ports and based on the security group to allow other let's say EC2 instance or an external connection or whatever to connect to it. So I only have one VPC, so that's fine. Let's see. Choose a database subset group. Default is fine. Public access. So in our case, I'm going to say yes, right? Because I do want it to, let's say, access. I want to be able to connect to it externally. If you're creating a database instance that's only going to be accessed through, let's say, your VPC, right? Then you will say no. In order to access this application, you would have to be connected to that environment. And that would be where VPNs come in, and that VPNs ultimately can have access through the security groups for the VPC to be able to allow whatever specific IP addresses to connect to it. So but in our case, we wouldn't say yes, and that's fine. VPC group. Let's see, what do we have today? I don't know what our default is. I would have to go back, but we could modify it. I'll leave it as default for now. Oh, my bad. Yeah, default. If I need to add, I need to change and add the port, I'll do it there. Available zone, no preference. So where's everything at? So right now I'm in Oregon, US West 2. This is all West. I'm gonna pick A. That's fine. Doesn't matter. Um, RDS proxy. We're gonna leave that unchecked. That's fine. So this is our port 3306. Password authentication, which that's why I copied my password information. You could authenticate to IM, but we're not gonna do that in this case. Monitoring enabled. That's fine. So let's go ahead and create database. Oops. Hey, my password invalid. Well, let's try again. What does it say? Cannot contain any of the following: single quotes, double quotes, slashes, at symbols. Oh, damn, I have an at symbol there. That's why. Alright, so let me go ahead and change this. Alright, cool. So now it's creating the database. This normally takes, I don't know, a few minutes. So pretty much here's our instance. If you would have clicked the multi AZ, option, but what will happen is you will see two options here. One instance and another instance. And again, the second instance would have been for like read only. All right, so it's still. Let's see, what is it doing? There it goes, still creating. All right, so we gotta wait. Okay, while this is going, let's see. You wanted to do. Okay, we wanna load some CSV data. That was the thing. So let's go see what do I have in my S3 bucket for us to load. So let's see, staging, unloading. So I have person data set. I'm not sure what's in here. Let's take a look at it real quick. Can I open this up? There it goes. Okay, there you go. So I do have some data here. I have this CSV file. Pretty much has ID, which we don't need the ID, but it has people's name and there's a list of ages. So we could go ahead and load this data in. So let's go back to see if this is still being created, and it is. Okay, so they successfully created it. So let me do a refresh. It's still creating the endpoints. Okay, so this is the writer reading, still creating. So what I'm gonna do while that's loading, let me open up my table plus new connection. And this will be my SQL. I'm gonna call this my SQL dev. Let's get all of our information. So I'm gonna copy the read URL. It really doesn't matter, but in this case, I'm going to do the read 336. The let's see, admin password admin. Damn, what did I call the database? Let me see what the database is here. Configuration. Where's it? Is it? I believe is it? No, it's not that. Is it? No, I don't think it's that. What did I call my database? Um, Damn, maybe I did call it that. So let me go back to it. Configuration. MySQL dev. Let me do a quick test. Oh, you know what? Yes, I want to say, can I connect? Blah blah blah. I think one reason is gonna be I need to check my security groups. So let me go to security groups. I believe I clicked on default. So let's go there. So right now I only have, let me go ahead and edit this. Let me see. Let me make a quick change in here real quick. So I'm going to add a rule here for MySQL. So let me find MySQL. Let me save the rule. All right, cool. So now I'm getting a different error message, but it's not related to to the security group anymore. I got that fixed. I just added a connection on a specific IP address to connect to my database though. What the hell did I call it? Let me refresh this real quick to see if it's done. So this is the instance. Okay, we're still not done, so I need to let it finish going. Damn, it's taking longer than what I thought. I thought it would have been done by now, but I guess not. Let's go back to my databases. Okay, there it goes. Now it's done. So let me go to, let's see. Dude, where's the damn database name? I'm trying to think now. What the hell? So this is the enter a name for your database cluster. Yeah, which I did. So let me try again. Test. So let me copy this. Make sure this matches 3306. So that's fine. Let me check something out real quick. Oh, what the hell, dude? I clicked on the wrong thing. Never mind. Damn it. I put MS SQL, not MySQL. Like, what the hell? All right, let me save this. All right, cool. Now let me try again. Connection okay. Let me hit save. All right, so now let's see, where is it at? There it goes. It's MySQL. So I was typing in the wrong thing. That's why I just left it blank. From here I could pick my database. So in this case, it's MySQL. So these are the system databases, the system tables, anyways. Let's see, like server, show logs. Well, I guess nothing. There's no data in here. But so where's our? So this is our system database. Okay, so really we have an instance created, but we don't have an actual database. So what I would do here, I would create a new one, and we'll call it dev, right? We're gonna call it dev. So now we have a database called dev. So now there's of course no tables, right? It's empty, it's blank. There's no table in here. That's cool. So pretty much now that I know the connection's good, I'm connected to the database now. if we want to move data over from a file, for example, well, what I'm going to do now is I don't need this anymore. I call it MySQL Dev. So let's go to AWS Glue. So in AWS Glue, this is where I would do a few things. First thing I would do is I will create under connections. And let's go ahead and create a connection. So we're going to create connection. We're going to call this MySQL Dev. It would be a RDS instance, and then Aurora engine, because it's already connected there to Aurora. That's what we want. And then I'm going to go ahead and select. This is my instance that I'm selecting to. MySQL Dev instance 1. And then the database name, right? Kind of going back, which database are you going to be loading data to? So in this case, I created a new one. I call it Dev. That's going to be the name of the database. It's going to be Dev. I have my username. Then let me go ahead and copy my password. And then let's create connection. Let's see. Appreciate the way you're explaining everything in detail and brief. Can you give highlight what exactly is the pipeline flow? You talking about data pipeline or let's see. All right, connection has been created. We'll see it down here in the other connection. Let's go back. No, what you're doing, how is data coming in, Aurora? Oh, just like the flow of what we're creating, our pipeline. Yes, so what I did first was create the instance of the Aurora database, right? That's kind of what I did over here, or not over here. Damn, I closed out of it already. But if I go to RDS, right, this is kind of when we went through the process where we created a new RDS instance, which happens to be a Aurora MySQL database. It's pretty much what it is. Again, the Aurora database, when you think of Aurora, think of it as, most people know it as Amazon Aurora, but in reality, I think of it more of, okay, what kind of Aurora database are we dealing with? MySQL or Postgres? It's one or the other, because you got to specify which type you're going to be dealing with. In our case, we selected MySQL. So, it's in reality, that's why you see it right here, Aurora MySQL engine, because it is a MySQL engine, but think of it as a souped up version of MySQL. It's kind of what it is. So once we created this, right now we have this database instance that lives there. What I did next was the flow is going to be, at least from a task and what I'm doing to set things up, I got to create a connection. A connection is I'm pretty much I'm going to use it in my process to connect to the MySQL Dev database. Now, when it comes to the data, like how is data going to flow from like point A to point B? Kind of like the video that I created the other day. One option could be something where you have a AWS glue job, which using Spark, and inside that job, it's connecting to an external database, and it's saving the results, like pulling data in and saving the results of that table to an S3 bucket, right? Just kind of example. That's kind of what we did in that step. Let's say we want to add on to that step. The next step after that could be, okay, that job runs first. Once that job is completed, it's going to now trigger another job as an example, which could be a job that we create to read the S3, the CSV file in the S3 bucket, and then we're going to load that data over to the Aurora MySQL database. In this case, I created a database called dev, and that's where it's going to get loaded into, this database called dev. The reason why it's loading to dev, not a different one like MySQL or systems or anything else, is because if I come to my settings, I actually specified that database in here. See, as you can see where it says dev. If you're going to have a connection to the same instance, but maybe loading to different databases, then you're going to have to create different connections. One connection would be, let's say, MySQL dev. Another one could be MySQL, I don't know, let's say systems, right? I mean, we're not going to load a system, but let's just assume, using that example, it will be MySQL system. And ultimately, that connection will point to that other database to load data into. That's kind of what this is doing. But yeah, from a flow, that's kind of what's going to happen here. Now that we created a database, I created a connection. If I were to go to Glue, one thing that I could do is create a schema off of that data that we have already. So when I say the data that we have already, I'm talking about this person dataset CSV file. I already have this in here. So let me just copy this because I'm going to create a schema with the same name. So if I go to AWS Glue, let's go to crawler. Oh, my bad. Before I go to crawler, connection, it's an actual connection to a database. Database, think of it more, it's just more from a organization standpoint. As you start building and creating other, like from a data catalog, we're just kind of, like I will create a new database here, and I will probably call this new database, let's say MySQL dev, and then or it could just be MySQL, because this could represent different databases as well, not just one database. Same instance, but different databases. But I'll just call it MySQL dev for now. And then that should be fine. Create database. So all of my tables that I create will be under here. If I go to a crawler, right? Let's go ahead and run the crawler next. I'm going to, let's create a new crawler. I'm going to call this person dataset. Let me make things lowercase. Just keep it simple. Person dataset. Name may only contain letters, numbers, hyphens, and underscores. All right, cool. I have underscores. That's fine. Let's click on next. Is your data already mapped to glue table? No. So add data source. In this case, will be an S3 bucket. Then I'm going to specify the pass, which is this bucket, staging, and unloading, pretty much. So let me just click on unloading. It's located under the same account, not a different account. Crawl all subfolder, that's fine. And yep. Let's go ahead and add that. Let's see our custom qualifiers. No, we don't have nothing. That's fine. The IAM row would be this guy. This one has access to S3 bucket. So gotta make sure your IAM row is configured properly. But assuming that it is, then you're good. Security configuration. Nope, that's fine. Hit next. So now we're gonna specify the database. So this is where we created that new database again. MySQL dev, and then nope, we don't need to put nothing there. Nope, that's fine. This will be on demand. Hit next, and then create crawler. So this shouldn't take too long to create. Okay, so it's been created already. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to run crawler. Now the run crawler may take 2-3 minutes. Cause what it's doing is to spin up an EC2 instance, pretty much like a VM. Spins up a VM in the background, and then it's going to end up crawling my file, right, to determine which I think I just had it open not that long ago. Where is it? Oh yeah, man. So I don't know if you saw. This is the logo that I'm going to be using for the website that I'm working on, the codingwithlude.com website. So this is the logo that I got done. So here's the person data set. If I open it up, this is what the schema should give us back 4 columns. This should be an integer, string, integer. So that's kind of what I'm expecting back. So let's see if it's done. Okay, so it is done. It's stopping. If I go to tables, is it in here? There it goes. Oh, what the hell? Why did it put unloading? Oh, you know why? It put the name of the actual folder. So again, my folder is not named properly. I would have named it something completely different. But ideally, if you named your folder, it's kind of going back to your bucket, right? It should have been staging instead of called unloading. This folder should have been called persons or let's say person data set or something like that. So ultimately, it'll represent that folder right. Which means what would have happened here is instead of saying unloading, this would actually showed persons or person data set. Whatever that folder name, the name is. But that's fine. So if I take a look at it, we could see if it, there you go, see the schema has 4 columns, which is what we were looking for. ID, string, ID. So that's all fine. We don't need to change nothing. Everything's pretty much in sync. Let's see, how to decide Aurora or Redshift, which one to use. Say I want to join multiple CSV files and build one final table from it. So I know with Redshift, I believe you could do this with Aurora as well, but I know for sure with Redshift though, you could have what's called external tables set up. And ultimately what that means is instead of loading data directly into the database, which we could do, right? Just you could create a job that feeds the whether it be Redshift or Aurora, it doesn't matter. But you could dump data into into a table, right? That's not an issue. In some cases, it makes sense where you just want to query a pool of files that happens to be, let's say, in a similar, like same format. So just like my people data file that I have here, well, let's say if I had more other files similar, like 100 of these files, same schema though, same structure, but I have like a whole set of hundreds of these files, and they were all located in an S3 bucket. We could create an external table for Redshift that would connect to that CSV, the bucket, connects to the bucket, and then whatever, prefix, folder name that we want to connect to. And it will be able to ultimately query all of that. And what we would do, we would give it a name, right? Let's say we call it persons. Well, in Redshift, you will see a external table section, like just like how you can expand your tables and then your views. Well, there'll be a section that would be, I think it's called external or something like that. When you expand that, you would actually find a table in there, like a name that's called persons, as an example. And then ultimately, you could query it like any other query. Select star from persons table, right? And it'll give you back results. But you're not loading no data directly into the database. All you did was, and we do that. We would do that with Glue, but we would have to create a schema. We would have to create a table here in AWS Glue, And once we did all of that, we would end up bringing that table over to Redshift and connect it, have it connected, and it will be showing up as what's called external table. It acts like a normal table, like in general, you query like normal, but in reality, it's called external because the data does not live in the actual database. It lives externally, right, in the S3 bucket in this case. But it's not just S3 bucket. You could have the external piece could connect to even other databases as well. Like you have Redshift, Aurora, let's say SQL Server, right? You have three different databases. Well, let's say that Redshift database, you in your external table section, you could have a table called persons, which points to an S3 bucket. You could have another table in there that actually points to your MySQL database. You could have another table that actually points to your SQL Server table, but in reality, you're querying everything like normal through the Redshift database. But there's a lot of, like, again, it's not too challenging, but there is a lot of steps involved though. Setting up, what you got to set up connections, kind of like what we did now. Have a database set up like in your data catalog. You got to create crawlers to get the schema. Then you got to create your tables, and once you do all of that, then that's kind of when you will now ultimately reference that in Redshift to connect to these tables that we have over here and these databases in our data catalog, and that's how it will be able to connect to it and query it directly. I would say, and for me, I feel like in Azure, I've actually been working on some projects where we're using SQL serverless, and we're also doing a lot of external tables, and we're querying like CSV files. And I feel like it's way easier to do it in Azure compared to AWS, but it's doable. It's not that it's hard in AWS, but it does require a lot more steps. I think compared to Azure, I feel it's a lot straightforward to do that. Feels like ChatGPT is speaking. I'm trying to at least give details to it, right? There's a lot of moving pieces, right, for sure, but hopefully, some of the stuff that I'm saying makes sense to be able to do that. And so, and we could walk through that next week, man. If you want, I could walk you through that process of creating external tables, and then ultimately, the external table would query, the S3 bucket, or query like actual table that live in the database. But again, when you query it, it's no different. It's like if you were to do select from this table A, then join table B, and let's say table B is really a CSV file in an S3 bucket, and table A is an actual table. When you query it, there's no difference. Like, it's gonna feel the same, right? It's not like, oh, I gotta do something special. I mean, it all just query the same for the most half. What I'm not sure though, and I look into this, I'm not sure if external tables could be created in MySQL. I know you could do it in Redshift because I've done it in Redshift before. I'm just not sure about MySQL if that's doable or not. Maybe it is. I just haven't done it yet in MySQL. So I will need to look into that to see if that's doable. Well, again, when I say MySQL, Aurora MySQL anyways. But I know for a fact that it is doable in Redshift for sure. Do you have SAP data? If possible, next time, can you show how to load SAP data? So I'm assuming when you say SAP data, you're talking more like API connection to SAP? Or are you talking about what is the SAP like iDoc data set? I think that's what it's called, right? SAP. Is it iDoc? I think that's what it's called anyways. But the iDoc is their like their integration file that they use whenever you send data from like system out of their system going to another system and so forth. I worked on a project some years back related to that, but normally there's tools that are designed for that. You could tell they're like BizTalk server. The one that I use is a MapForce because I think MapForce has that yes, a SAP. Let me see what I could find. Let me see if I could find. I don't have one. Let me see if I can find a sample. The problem though with this, and well, let me phrase it. Maybe there is a. I gotta see if there's something in here because to extract that, the only way that I could think of would in AWS Glue would be to um like a lot of the jobs that you create in AWS Glue, it's more for specific file types like JSON, Parquet, CSV, JSON, for example, or like sources like RDS instance, Redshift, of course, S3, or I mean, you connect to S3 bucket, but again, those JSON, CSV, Parquet, those file formats, there's not that I'm aware of anything that's able to parse a IDOC file. Now there are tools that does it. I don't know if there's anything on here related to that. Again, not that I'm aware of. I'm assuming they're going to integrate SAP system with AWS service using SAP Open Connector. Okay, so they do have a connector then for that. But I'm assuming this is more to pull in data, probably, yeah, from their system. Um, I'll take a look at it. I'll take a look to see if there's anything related to processing IDOC files. I'm pretty sure I could get myself a sample data set. See, this is connecting to their API, which means it's going to be most likely probably like a JSON format. Yep, there goes see JSON. So that's not what we're trying to deal with here. The IDOC. I mean, I'm assuming you're familiar with IDOCs, but if we take a look at a sample, pretty much is XML. But it's more than that. See how we have these tags, and these tags pretty much represent specific key values. It kind of mimics EDI X12. I don't know if you're familiar with X12 data, but it's kind of the same concept, but instead of HTML tags, it's actually like a whole different format. Let me see what I could find. I don't think AWS that I'm aware of has anything for iDocs, but I could still walk you through some processes of potentially how to do it, or I could look into Python. Maybe there's something in Python, right, for SAP iDoc that we could like maybe play around with. So let's see. Either way, I'll play around with it, man. See what I could find. Then we'll see what we could do on testing this out. I just don't think there's nothing out of the box though that I'm aware of in AWS that will parse this file. Because again, this file format's way different. Like this is not a traditional file like XML, JSON, CSV, and I don't think that I'm aware of AWS has anything to parse that out. But I think what we could probably do something like here where have a package, and maybe this package works. That's why I need to look into it. There's a Python package to convert it over to a JSON file, because I think that's what this is kind of doing here. It's converting it over to like this JSON or Python dictionary, and then from there, we could work with it, right? We could, use it in some kind of way or another. So I'll play around with that, man. We'll see what we could do, but we'll pick up next week. Again, next week I do have a special guest on the live stream. Kevin Miller is going to be on. So he's a software developer. I think he had like maybe 7 years under his belt or so, maybe a little bit more. So you're kind of just going to discuss his background a little bit, kind of give you some insight to him. And then he's also going to talk about, how, what can people do to try to get their foot in the door, right? Especially if you don't have a degree, because it becomes a little bit more tougher to get your foot in the door. So we're going to be talking about that. He's going to be talking about that, I guess, on the live stream. This will be next week. We're going to do that in the first hour and a half. First hour, my bad. And then, of course, the second half of the live stream from 10 to 11, we'll kind of discuss some other stuff, right? So I'll look into the SAP data, see what I could figure out on that. Again, there's tools that you could use. I have a tool that I believe, I think it does have for SAP iDoc, and I could probably share that tool that I use today. I use it for other stuff, but I believe it will work for this example. And then we'll try to see what we could do with potentially Python maybe or something to parse that data. But again, guys, man, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for being on the live. Again, I'm glad to have the live streams back. I'm pushing out videos like crazy. You probably notice every day there's at least one video coming out. So there's going to be a lot more videos coming out. For sure. There's a lot of things coming, man. How I mentioned with the Discord and all of that, with the website. I just showed y'all the logo for the website. Damn, did I close out of it? I did. But I did show you, I believe, the logo for the website. So a lot of things coming, man. Things are moving. Things are happening. So good things for sure to come. And hopefully get this channel, man. My goal is, and we'll see how I'll make this happen. But by the end of the year, to try to hit the 10K follower mark at least. That's my goal, 10K. I think I'm like 2,000, like 2,100 or so followers. So I got a little under 8,000 to go. I think it's doable, man. I think it's doable. So that's going to be the plan, man. By the end of the year, try to hit 10K. And then if I do hit 10K at the end of the year, I'm going to do something special on that, once I hit that goal. When I say special, I'm gonna be giving away the plan is, my goal is 10,000, and once I hit it, I am gonna be doing a giveaway once I hit that mark. I'm not gonna say what that giveaway is, but it's gonna be a nice, very nice item. Put it that way. So again, guys, man, appreciate it. Thanks for joining the live stream. I'm gonna be on tomorrow as well, guys, on Twitch. So at 9 p.m. tomorrow on Twitch. That's kind of more laid back. We do some gaming, talk tech, different stuff like that. But either way, man, I'll be on Twitch tomorrow. And y'all take care, guys. Peace.